Hello everyone.
Hello.
How are you both today?
Good, thank you.
Good.
Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah, I've spent ages cleaning my glasses, Davey. I'm always really conscious of kind of like having smeary glasses kind of thing when you're on video calls and whatever.
Yeah.
How's your week been so far? Because both of you very kindly were in the session last week, weren't you?
Yeah, it's been very busy this week, actually.
Was it?
Yeah, but that's a good thing because then time goes quicker.
Yep. And so what are you doing then, Tiana? Tell me a little bit about your role, if that's okay.
So I'm fairly new to the role that I'm in at the moment. So I work for a company called Arrowroot. I'm the executive operations officer.
Okay.
So I kind of do a range of different tasks on a daily basis. So I feel like this training is going to be quite useful because I'm helping out with the company website at the moment.
Okay.
So it's just
Always an interesting task. It can be really, really challenging, and especially if it's not something that you are particularly comfortable with, just in terms of having previously sort of been involved in that kind of project. Takes quite a lot of thinking to kind of order sort of what you want and that kind of thing. So hopefully today will be really useful for you. It'll give some pointers, etc. So thank you. Yeah, brilliant. And Charlotte and Phil, hello, welcome to you both.
Hiya.
Hello.
Hiya.
Hi. So Charlotte, I think you've been with us before. Phil, I'm not sure that you have.
I haven't. No, I missed the social media one, but I'm here for the website because I deal with the website more on our side.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to have a really interesting mix of people that have got some knowledge and people that are kind of like really new and just kind of want to understand a little bit better about how to work with their websites.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Okay. And Charlotte, how are you? Hi, Money.
Hi.
I'm good, yeah. It's
Yeah.
good, yeah.
Fantastic.
How is everyone else?
Okay. So Amani, are you well this week after your week?
Yeah, I'm good. I just clicked on the link that was in the email that was sent this morning and it went to the last week's.
Oh, did it? Okay.
Yeah, so that's why I was a bit late, sorry.
Okay, well, brilliant that you've navigated your way here, and hopefully everybody else, if they've got a similar sort of issue, would be able to do the same. So I will mention that back to make sure. So, and Davey, how are you this week? I know you've been a real stalwart of a number of online sessions that have been run through iSE. So, are you well this week?
Yes, I'm well.
Good.
Yeah, it's busy week,
Okay.
as most weeks seem to be.
Yeah, good.
Not quite what I was expecting.
I think that's it. Is everybody is still just kind of coming out of that. Quite a lot of wobbles I've heard from a lot of people, particularly in business, as well as obviously how it may impact people personally, sort of second lockdown. So hopefully, you know, you're all kind of like, you know, nearly at the end of a week, and just being able to kind of regroup yourselves and staff teams as well, because I think that internal comms piece that we sort of talked a little bit about last week is just so important for individuals as well. So if it's okay with everybody, I will kind of get going. There may be some others that actually join us through the session, if they're sort of just struggling a little bit to get through on the link. So this is the Is Your Website Wonderful workshop. So this is being delivered by iSE on behalf of Living Well Consortia. So welcome to everybody. And my name's Sally Ryan. So I'm a freelance marketing specialist. So I've worked in and around sort of the social enterprise sector, particularly for 10 years or so. And that's kind of the area that I really love, the sector that I really love working in. So hopefully today, it sometimes is quite difficult to kind of pitch things, because some people will want to sort of deep dive into a particular topic that we may be discussing. But just to manage expectations, this session is not going to make you a webmaster. It's not going to make you a web design expert. This is really to kind of help you look at websites with a little bit more of a knowledge base, look at the things that may be important for you within your own enterprise, and also perhaps have some routes forward. So if you have some challenges and think, oh, that's not quite working, or I'm in the process of redesigning a website, what might I be looking for in terms of structure, the technical side of it, as well as a little bit of the design side of it. What I am not going to be tutoring, if you like, is here is a WordPress site, and if you want to upload a picture, you click here, you do this, you resize it like that. That's kind of like getting into technical design, and obviously we have kind of maximum of 2 hours with us today. So in terms of managing expectation, is everybody okay? So a bit of a thumbs up that's going to be helpful to yourselves and also what you're expecting.
Yeah.
Yeah, good stuff. Thank you. Just a very, very quick bit of housekeeping that we always go through. So we are recording this. If you do not wish to be included on the final recording, if you don't wish your face to be seen, then please pop your video off. If you don't feel comfortable, because this will be uploaded onto YouTube and used by iSE and Living Well Consortia, please do feel free, pop out and pick it up on the YouTube channel that it'll be uploaded to later. So equally, Phil, you mentioned that you weren't able to be with us last week. You will find that Paul can give you the link, if he hasn't already, to where the iSE YouTube channel is, and you can go through and you can have kind of a cruise through our session last week. So it would be really helpful if you have maybe mobiles with you or access to another computer, because we will be doing our little breakout sessions. So the structure of today's time is very similar to last week. So we'll do a little bit of talking, but then I'll kind of pop you into breakout rooms so that you can do a little bit of your own discussion and that kind of thing. It would be helpful if you could pop your mobiles onto silent. So short of if you need a comfort break, if you haven't already got a cup of tea and you need a cup of tea, maybe now's the time to quickly go and do that. And also, I personally don't have any Amazon deliveries planned for the day, but obviously, you know, if emergencies like a DPD or a courier arrive at your door, completely understandable, pop out, join in when you can. So it's really lovely to have everybody here today. So thank you very much for your time, because I know time is really precious, and also screen time is kind of, we've talked about overload. So hopefully this is kind of quite relaxed and informal. So there are no big tests or quizzes or any of that nature at the end of it. This is really about your time to get what you want from the session. So I would say, although I've been around and designing websites for quite a little while, you know, I don't consider myself as the ultimate web expert. I've worked around websites, I've worked with websites, I've worked with clients and their websites and doing website reviews, etc., etc. So I have some knowledge, but equally you have your own knowledge about your own organisations and your websites and your offer. So contribute by all means, and we will have a sort of an open Q&A towards the end. So if everybody's all right with that, I'm going to pop onto some screen sharing to get started. So if you could pop yourselves on mute, that would perhaps really help sort of while I'm doing the talky bits, and then by all means when we have open conversations or your breakout rooms, pop your microphones back on. So here we go. So is everybody okay in being able to see that? Yes, fantastic. So I've called this "Is Your Website Wonderful?" Just trying to, you know, hook into a bit of a catchy tune. I think one of the things that we are all very mindful of is that you see something on the internet and therefore it must be true. No is the answer to that one. So I really kind of quite like this little quirky kind of quote from Abraham Lincoln. What I would say is very, very similar to the discussion that we had around social media, and that is be authentic. And I think that really, again, comes back to that exploration piece about your values and about your unique selling point, your USP. What's different about you than any of your competitors? we all have a point of difference. We all deliver great social value as well as delivering our products and services. So that really is the kind of start point. Sometimes I would say it can be quite difficult to really kind of do that evaluation piece on your own business, particularly if your own business is yourself. And sometimes I think that's where it's really good to be using mentors, to be hooking into other funded enterprise programs that offer support, maybe, you know, somebody that you trust in business, etc., to be that sort of sounding board and to be that check and test. And I think check and testing on websites is really important for a number of reasons, which hopefully will become more apparent as we go through this session. So I just thought, as we do our hellos, I think most of us know each other from being on previous sessions. So for some reason, my screen share has stopped. There we go. So I thought one of the things that would be really, really interesting is if you've got your pens and papers, just to jot down your own thoughts. You're very welcome to share them if you wish. But the 3 things that you think about when you think of a website. So what's really important, do you think, at this moment in terms of your website? Broad things. Is it that it's colourful? Is it that it's got whizzy things flying around all over the screen? Is it that you show people on your website? Is it the kind of the words and that kind of thing? So just 3 things that you think are either important about your own website at the moment, or actually when you go on a website, that's what you're looking for. So just if you could take a moment and jot those down, that would be really, really helpful. And we will come back to those at the end of the session and kind of reflect on perhaps some of the information and the knowledge that we've shared today. Has everybody managed to pop down their 3 things? Yeah, fantastic. Would anybody like to share them while we're kind of at that pause moment, or should we talk about that a little bit towards the end?
Hiya, Sally.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just wanted to highlight, I don't know if you know, but the wrong link was sent out to a lot of people.
I have been told that by Paul.
That's fine.
Is that all right?
That's the only reason why I'm late, and I'm just wondering if other people hadn't got it, that's all.
No problem. Excuse me working on my phone while I'm talking to you, but because there have been a number of people mention the same thing, let me just drop Paul a message. I'm just going to do this very, very quickly.
Sorry, I was on mute.
No, that's absolutely
I just wanted to say that he sent an email just saying that my apologies, I accidentally sent out the previous link.
Oh, okay, so he's already aware of it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's why I got onto it. That's what I just wanted to highlight, just in case. That's
absolutely fine then. Thank you very much for raising that. Excuse me, and I will hook off my phone, and I think we'll all be good to go. So thank you very much for that. So we may have a few other people that kind of pop in and join us as we go through the first of the sessions. So if you've got your 3 words, just kind of park those in a notebook or a bit of paper that you've jotted them down on. And as I say, we will come back to those a little bit later in the session. So just a very, very brief bit of information really about websites and the internet, etc. I'm not sure whether you'll all be aware, but the first website was actually sort of set up by CERN, the organisation in Switzerland that Tim Berners-Lee was working for, and that was in 1993. So it was really, really groundbreaking, and some of us, me, are old enough to remember life before websites and domain names and emails and those kinds of things. But from 1993 to now, we have over 1 billion websites in the world. So there is a huge element there where we've gone in a relatively short space of time from I can remember talking to people and they go, oh, I don't know, need a domain name, I'm never going to have a website, you know, far too expensive. They cost like 10 grand then, even for a basic site. Certainly don't need an email. Oh, no, never going to be going down that way. And now we have an incredible number of websites, and we probably now, they are the most essential marketing tool that we have around our businesses. So they really are a window onto the world, and they also kind of give us a shop window as our enterprises. Of those 1 billion plus websites, there is a discrepancy. You know, sort of, if you do a search, some people say 1 billion websites, some point 1.9 billion websites. There is an average of 3.5 billion views a day to websites. So that global presence is absolutely huge. But I think that there are some really interesting stats here, because websites and on-screen, we respond to that very, very differently than we do sort of more tactile information we receive from businesses. So if, for example, you were to pick up a brochure from an organisation as opposed to look on the website, we as humans, we perceive the information very differently. We absorb and access the information very differently. So as an example, if we meet somebody in person and maybe at a networking event, we have this kind of magic sort of maximum a minute. You make up your mind about an individual in less than a minute. And we still do that on screen if we're doing virtual meetings. But when we look at a website, you've got a stat there which is quite shocking. 0.05 of a second. Most people will literally look at the front page, a very, very quick scan of the information, the visual element of the website, and then decide if that's where they want to go or not. Obviously, that does depend on whether they are specifically choosing the website that they are going to. But some interesting statistics there, which 38% will opt out if it's not visually interesting. Will go onto a website, and I might be more forgiving of a community-based website, a website that I know is run by a volunteer that has got a real passion about historical footpaths in their area. You know, it's an individual's website, as opposed to an enterprise and organisation. And this is really about engaging us. It's about building trust and confidence, and it's about accessing information. Staggeringly, you've got that stat towards the bottom, 70% of websites lack a call to action. So this call to action, which is usually would be on the homepage, is often either hidden, or in a number of websites, it's actually not even there, it's not present. So if I'm going onto a website, what does that website want me to do? What am I doing as a result of visiting that website? So that call to action, probably a really simple and a good example would be on the home page, sign up to our newsletter. So if you're asking somebody to sign up to your newsletter, if you remember in the social media workshop we did last week, we talked about sort of giving first, and that's almost explaining to people, if you sign up for our newsletter, then what you will get is, you know, priority notice of new projects that we are running or new news information. You might get a first offer on discounts or price points that are changing. It might be that you've just got that sort of, we always send our newsletter out 24 hours before we actually make anything else public. So explaining to people why you would want them to actually sign up to your email newsletter. Obviously for yourself, what you're looking for in terms of that call to action, signing up to the newsletter means that appropriately we are looking at people opting in through GDPR to actually allow us as organisations to have their contact data. So that's really, really valuable. Data is an enormous asset within an enterprise, and it's often a very underutilised asset. But if we have people signing up to our newsletter, then it means that we have that legal permission to contact them unless they opt out. thereafter. So that's why that kind of transactional element on a website is really, really important. We gain something, but we give something in return. And also looking at the credibility of organisations. So if you have a website which is perhaps a little bit older, so if it was done 10 years ago and you keep kind of, you know, sort of popping new information on, it can become a little bit disjointed, both in terms of the information, the language style, because different people may have actually contributed to it. So all of that kind of sends us subliminal messages when we are looking at websites and when we are reading websites to go, is this an organisation that I have confidence in? What's their level of credibility? So occasionally, much as Tiana, you were saying, it's really important to just go back to our websites and kind of sit and just do a reflective review of them and look and see how cohesive our website actually is, and does it credibly reflect the organisation that we now are. So that's really where your website really becomes your front room, and you're inviting people into your front room. Okay. One of the things when I work with clients is that usually if I'm doing a review of an existing website, particularly one that maybe is a couple of years old, that a lot of the language that's being used on the website is all about me. We are great, we are wonderful, we have these services, and we want you to buy them, in a sort of black and white world, if you like. But actually websites are far more engaging when we look at our language and tone that we use across the website, both sort of written language and tone, but also obviously the imagery. And really our websites are best and most engaging if they are written about you, as in you, our customer. So that's really sort of talking to people in a way that instead of saying, you can buy our product, we want you to buy our products, it's more about, if you are looking for, if you have this kind of challenge and you are looking for this sort of solution, one of our products over here may be useful to help you. So that's what I mean by the you. It's focus your language and your offer and your tone around your customers rather than around yourselves, okay? And we also talked, as I say, a little bit about values, etc. last week for those that were with us. And that's really where your website is looked at by, you know, probably very simply these 5 different sort of categories of stakeholders, if you like, website viewers. So your culture is very much how you come across as an organisation through your website. And that may be because you're also looking at it for, if I was going to recruit somebody, I would be making sure that our information and our tone makes us an employer of choice. If I am going to look for a job, or I'm looking for a client to see, you know, how aligned they are with my own values and my own interests, then I would certainly want to be using my website to convey that this is an organisation that has a really strong culture, so it can be a really powerful recruitment tool for you. It's probably the first place that you know, new prospective employees would go to look and understand who you are, who am I applying for a job with. Customers, obviously, you know, they want to come and they want to look at your products, your services, what offers you've got going on, kind of what's happening that is relevant to me. If I am a customer or a potential customer. So that could be things like pricing. Do you actually offer the type of service that I need? So if I'm looking at a website because I need some print done, I'm a potential customer. What I really need to know is, will they do large scale print? So I'm not looking at you know, business cards or letterheads or a brochure. I need I don't know, a vinyl banner printed to put outside my office unit, for example. So that's what I would be really sort of looking for and drilling down. Commissioners, so a number of you may be looking at applying for grants, applying to commissioners for contracts to deliver projects, etc. Would that be a yes and a thumbs up? So if your commissioners are looking at your website, take a moment to reflect, put yourself in a commissioner's shoes. I'm a sort of great advocate of, you know, put yourself in the other person's shoes, tread a mile in their shoes, if you like, and look at your website and think, if I am a commissioner and I've got, you know, I've worked fantastically on this great bit tender and I've put a fantastic grant application in, one of the first things that they will do once they've actually read through what you submitted is potentially go and look at your website. And obviously, if your website is misaligned to fundamentally what you've included in your tender, so for example, you've said that you work with homeless people and you look after mental health and recovery from addictions that are all factors around homelessness, but they go on your website and the first thing they see is, look at my fantastic new pet kitten, for example, you know, because I thought that was new news that people would be interested in. Commissioner's going to kind of have a little bit of a, really? I'm not quite sure that this is the organisation that I thought I would be looking at. So extreme example, but as I say, sort of look at your information on your website, because you will have commissioners of service, commissioners, grant givers, actually looking at your website if that is the area that you're looking at the moment. Not surprisingly, obviously, your competitors will be looking at your website. So I'm sure maybe a few of us have kind of thought, oh, I wonder if somebody else in my area, my locality, is offering mental health services. Would that be a fair thing, as sort of an example that people have kind of used? So if you have, you are looking for what type of services do they provide, you know, how often do they provide them, are they face-to-face, or, you know, maybe some pricing, that kind of thing. So there is a delicate balance between what you put on your website, because your competitors will be looking at it. So that again could be that you want to use the sort of the sign up. So a lot of organisations will say, if you want to have a copy of our report on mental health services and our view and opinion or our mapping, you exchange that for your email, and that gives yourselves the opportunity to go, oh, hang on a minute, this is maybe a competitor that's looking for this. So there is a delicate balance between putting enough information on your website that is interesting, that is engaging, that shows your authenticity and your unique selling point, which is the USP part of that bullet point, whilst not giving everything away on your website, because obviously then that's freely accessible and people may not need to look to actually engage with you on a paid basis. So a delicate balance there. Be aware that competitors will use your site, but don't let that stop you. I would always say, be confident, really work and dig deep on what your USP is, and be confident in your USP. Think about how you put that across. And then contracts as well. So often when we're delivering contracts, we want to be able to show, you know, the kind of outputs. Again, we're not revealing confidential information or sensitive information. We must be very mindful of that. But it is explaining how, if we have a contract, you know, who that is, thanking that particular contract partner, maybe making sure they're tagged into websites, but also showing our community of benefit. So that gives a bit of richness to our websites, rather than everything being very high level and perhaps a little bit fluffy. It's about giving some depth and credibility to our websites. So if you are looking at designing a website, there are kind of two ways that you can go about websites. So there are a lot of DIY website platforms. So I've listed a few there. And I've also included, as you'll note, source links down the bottom of the slides. And this slide pack will go out to you through Paul. And obviously the slides as well will show on the final video. But it's always really important to show where the information has come from, but also so that you can actually pick up on this and you can go to those sort of pages. If this is, for example, something that's of real interest to you, you can take your own time and dig a bit deeper with it. But there are some really great platforms out there. If you want to look at building your own website, so you download a template and then you adapt that. And then you put in different elements that you might need yourself. So for some people that might be, you want what's called a plugin, a sort of an extra bit that allows you to manage an events calendar, for example. But there are different elements and different features and benefits, as you would expect, from different DIY design platforms for websites. So there are a few of them there. I would think perhaps most people have perhaps heard of GoDaddy because they've got a big sort of TV presence campaign that they run. But I would also say that Squarespace is a very up-and-coming design platform. But probably most people have heard of WordPress, perhaps as the main one. Has anybody heard of WordPress as a website? Okay, so most there. And has anybody got a WordPress website that they are aware of? Yeah, you have, Charlotte and Davey. Okay, so the advantage of WordPress website, so whether you are able and have the background in terms of your own capabilities to do a DIY version website, so take a template and adapt it and get everything that you need into that website and put it live. But WordPress has really strong content management systems, CMS, and that's where you are able to update your website once you've got sort of the basic site up there. And that's really invaluable because if you have, for example, a designer website, so through a web design agency, if they haven't used a system like WordPress as an example that allows you to actually update content, so put a new news page up there for a new project that you've won perhaps, then it means that you're always having to go back through that design agency to ask them to put that news page up. You have to write it, you have to provide the photographs, but you send it off to them, they charge you £25 an hour, could be £50 an hour. So every time you want to make a change on your website, you are incurring quite high level costs. However, the compromise is that you work with a web design agency, perhaps to get your basic site up and running using something perhaps like WordPress, but then you make sure that you have control of the content management system thereafter. So they help you get the frame and the general design working really, really well, particularly the technical functionality, because websites are made up of the creative, if you like, the sort of the words and the images, how it looks and feels at sort of first glance. And then they are the technical stuff, the structure, the analytics behind the website. So all of that side is often very useful to have a web designer work with you on that element to make sure that the functionality of your site is optimized. So there's sort of those three elements there. You can do it completely by yourself using something, as an example, like the GoDaddy website or the WordPress website. You can get a designer to help you get your website set up using one of these platforms, but make sure that you have content management control, the CMS control, so that you can then add individual elements up. If you need something restructured, then you might want to go back to a web designer and pay those costs. Or you can actually go to a web designer. What I personally would not recommend is that you use a web design agency and you have no control over your own content of your own website, because you are absolutely tied into that web design agency then, both in terms of cost and their time. Things like if the domain name is held with them on their servers, then it can be difficult to get that released if anything happens and you want to change providers. So those would certainly be a couple of hints and tips that I hope would be useful. But as I say, you have got those sort of little links down the bottom there if we're looking at general website build and some of the key important factors there. Content creation. So if we work on the assumption from this point that you have control of that content management and you have either had some training from your website designer or you found your way around using something like your WordPress site when it's in WordPress admin mode, that you can edit and upload things. So if we're working in that space, that you have that ability at some level or not, some level or other. What we are then looking at is the importance of content. So websites should not stay as they are from the day that they are created and launched. It's really important that we look at websites as something that is always constantly evolving. So they are absolutely not a static element when we are looking at our sort of marketing assets and how we view our websites. So it's really important to actually take that time to go through your website. And this is probably a piece of homework that I would sort of recommend after this session, that at some point maybe put some time into your diary and go, I'm going to sit down with a cup of coffee and a notebook, and I'm going to look at our website. I'm just going to check whether, you know, are we still running that contract? Do we still work with that particular funder or commissioner? Have we got up-to-date case studies and information? Have our staff team changed, for example? Do we need to add somebody on, take somebody off, that kind of thing? So is your website just really absolutely up-to-date and an accurate reflection of where your enterprise business is now? Technology obviously changes as well. So how websites are viewed, the type of content that you can add to your website, constantly evolving. We all know the technology is moving massively. So from where websites started, where they were quite static, you'd look at a page, it would have a photograph, it would have a bit of copy, it would take ages to load. Now there is a lot more content on there in terms of videos, live streaming, podcasts, all of that kind of thing. So it's really important to kind of have an awareness and try and keep up with that appropriately to your own enterprise, your own budget and your own sort of staff capabilities, but certainly be aware of it. We also have new customer markets opening up, and that also means that if we are looking at our websites, is that reflecting, as many businesses have been doing, pivoting their business has been a catchphrase of COVID, and it may well be that you have moved some of your products, some of your services, created new products and services, adapted them, etc. So that could be opening because you're looking to open up new customer markets. So again, looking at your website, making sure that there is an alignment between where you are going as a business and where your customers actually are. You can see from the changing trends there, as we say, that with technology, with fast-moving business space, business landscape, things are always moving. So we are looking at much more personalised content now on our website. So I'm sure that many of you will, as soon as you visited a website and maybe bought a top or a skirt or a pair of trousers from, let's say, Marks and Spencer's, that all of a sudden, you know, you kind of get sort of lots more information coming through from Marks and Spencer's about tops and skirts and trousers. So that's where they, you know, the bigger organisations, they're really using this kind of the analytics from their websites to really focus in on providing personalised content to their website viewers, little pop-ups that might come in onto the side of the screen about things that they believe would interest you. It's the same technology that you have, same reason that supermarkets offer loyalty cards and you know, your sort of Tesco points and things like that. They want to know who is buying what, and then they can provide more information about those kind of categories of goods through your supermarket. So that's where that kind of personalised content is really hitting home for a lot of people. For many of us as smaller enterprises, obviously we don't have that big tech, that big budget behind us, but we can still think about, are we actually able to use information from our website and from the data that we gather within our enterprises to provide more relevant content and information and messaging to our customers and to the people that are visiting our websites, or link that through in terms of how we communicate with them through perhaps an e-newsletter as a result of visiting our website and sign up. So just going to go into our first breakout room. So I guess what I would really be interested in is if you can have a little look, if you have your phones handy or are able to. One thing that on your existing homepage of your own enterprise, your own organisation's website, on the homepage, one thing that you like, one thing that stands out and engages you, and one thing that you think that you would like to change, okay? So we're just going to have 5 minutes in the breakout rooms, if that's okay. So I'm just popping you into your breakout rooms, and then we'll open those up for 5 minutes, and I'll give you a bit of a 60-second countdown, okay? Hello.
Hello.
Lovely, everybody's back with us. Hi. So anybody want to share their sort of 2 thoughts, their one thing that they really like that engages them on their homepage, anything that they immediately can think, oh, actually, I don't like that, or maybe even there's something missing from their homepage? Yes.
I'd say that ours is visually quite attractive, like when you go on, only because we've worked hard on some of the imagery and making it look clean and smart. But then actually it doesn't work, like in terms of the functionality of it. We have that one designer that we have to wait for to update it.
Okay.
We haven't got control over the content, which makes it really hard to update and the rest of it. Yeah, so that's my 2.
Okay, and so is that something that you've been previously aware of, or that you may be looking to change, or are you just thinking, well, I just need better information so that when I'm talking to the design agency, there's a better confidence about what you're talking about?
I'd like to change the design agency, to be fair.
Okay.
But I think it was a friendship arrangement. That sort of developed into using someone that probably, if I were to pick, I probably wouldn't have picked.
Yeah.
So
okay.
It might be just start again. If we get money and we can get some kind of funding to do that, I think it would be really useful.
Okay. I think one of the things, certainly, if you are working with that existing arrangement, is to really think, what can I group together? And brief a chunk of work rather than, oh, can we just have a new image here on a banner, and then sort of a couple of days later go, oh, we've got a news piece that we want to add on there, and then the following week you go, oh, we've got another member of staff join that I forgot to tell you about, they've been with us a couple of months. So group work together, so that at least you're then saying, okay, I'm giving you half a day's work, and it's ring fenced kind of thing. You'll get a little bit better value for money out of that.
Do you know what the problem is? They don't really know how to do some of the functions. Like, say, for example, if you want to have a drop down or a diary and you want to put, they don't know how to do this. The designers don't. So if they don't know how to do it, then we don't have the appropriate things for our customers to be able to book onto and stuff. So it just doesn't work like that.
So there is always, when we are budgeting and investing in our businesses and investing in this instance in your website, there's always obviously the cost of investment. So there is the cost of investment. That's going to take me a bit of pain internally, and you've got to write content, or you've got to hand over £1,000 in budget to do that. But there is always a cost to doing nothing. And I think in terms of any of our businesses, we have to be mindful. And I fully appreciate that budgets, financial budgets are really, really tight for people at the moment. So I'm not saying, it's the biggest priority within your enterprise at this moment to go and, commission a completely new website and go through that. And I would honestly say, if you're commissioning a new website, be prepared for it to take 3 months. It can be, less than that, but usually you've got your own copy to write. It can be quite difficult for somebody else to write on your behalf. They might be able to draft copy and content based on your existing information, but they've got to know about the projects, they've got to know a bit about the people. So even writing a short biography for each of your staff team, for example, they've got to know, the framework of information that they can then write around. So copywriting can take a fair chunk of time. And obviously you need somebody that is comfortable doing that kind of writing, content creation, get the right tone for you and using the right language, etc. But I would say that there is always cost to doing nothing, as much as there is a financial cost to often and an internal capacity cost to doing something. And that's a balance that you perhaps may need to consider and talk about with your senior leadership team, kind of thing. Is that okay?
Perfect.
Anybody else? No, we're all good. Okay, so what I'm going to do is go back to the screen sharing, if that's okay. So, for some reason my connection is a little bit sluggish today, which isn't overly helpful. But this next section that we're going to talk about is kind of actually looking at really how we kind of plan, take a planning perspective on our websites. So one of the first things that I would say with your website is looking at what are the essentials. So often we start with a basic site, and I would say that actually a basic site is 5 pages. I know there are 6 bullet points here, and that's because I would recommend that we look, particularly perhaps in the health and well-being sector, that we include an FAQ page, frequently asked questions. But we certainly have 5 basic pages that if you go to any website, you would almost certainly be able to see these 5 basic pages. And if we do nothing else, let's do these 5 pages really well, would be my recommendation. So I've just tried to add in there a little bit of just a line of description really about the key things to consider on each of those pages. And it may well be that, for example, if you go onto your About page, that you've got there a summary of your enterprise, your staff team, achievements and awards, and a little bit about your unique selling points. Again, you don't have to give away how you achieve your unique selling point, but you do want to put across quite clearly what it is that you do differently that would make your customers or your clients want to contract with you or buy from you. But things like your About page, for example, the staff team, would be a classic one that may then take you to a secondary page. And on that secondary page, you might have a profile shot of your staff team member and a little bit of biography. Importantly, you might have their contact details within work, and also sort of which project. So why would I contact Amana versus Tiana versus Phil, for example, if we were all working in the same enterprise. So that can be quite important for people, because it can be quite confusing as to who do I contact and where do I go. And that directly relates to the final bullet point there, which then you've got the overarching, the business contact details, which is your address, your email, etc. Now, one of the things that you can then do is link between those two pages within your website. And it's something that a lot of websites perhaps don't do enough. They think of their web pages as just sort of silo pages almost, but we can actually interlink those pages. So if on our About page we have our staff team, we can then also link to the contact form or the contact page from the staff team page, and vice versa on the main contact page. If you want somebody to contact Sally, for example, because they're particularly interested in adult mental health, then you can use that sort of contact on the contact page through a sort of a staff highlight. One of the things that websites should be is really quite broad and flat. So our basic pages that we have here are often in one navigation bar. If we then have a lot of products and services, we might actually have a second navigation bar on the website that just makes it a lot easier and quicker for a visitor to the website to go, look at homepage, I'm in the right place, I want to go further. What do they deliver? Oh, I want to go to mental health services page, I want to go to health and wellbeing for young people, etc., etc. So that's where you may find on a website that there is a secondary navigation bar that actually takes you into sort of easier access to individual products and services if you have a number of products and services. That could be individual projects that you're actually running, it could be different programs that you're running. If you are selling products, for example, it could be that you've got textiles in one part of the navigation, another part of the navigation you can go straight to ceramics, in another part of the navigation you can go straight to knitted items, etc. One of the things that the intelligence that comes through from the search engines, so there is search engines like Google, they have an artificial intelligence, they have algorithms that run in the background across the whole of the internet, and they look at the pages the sites that we visit, which pages we go to, and they like broad flat structures rather than saying, oh, I've got a home page and then I've got everything run off that home page. So you have to go deeper and deeper and deeper into the home page to actually get to where you want to, the information that you're looking to access. So there is a bit of a golden rule about you should be able to find the information that you want on a website within 3 clicks. So that again would be a challenge that I would put back to you, that when you've got that cup of tea and you're having a little look through your own sites, is if you were a customer wanting a particular service or to know who to contact about a particular inquiry, can you get there in 3 clicks on your website? Because we have a very, very limited tolerance, particularly around websites. That means that we want to get things quite instantly. And if we can't find them, we get frustrated and we leave. Okay, so that broad and flat, 2 navigations if necessary to aid that sort of broad flat structure, and aid that 3 clicks to access information. But beyond these essential pages, and so I would definitely say 5 essential pages, and then FAQs, they can really help build trust and confidence about who we are and our organisation. And I would basically look at whoever is responsible for perhaps answering the phones or manning a reception desk, what are the 10 most popular questions that people ask them? those really are your start points of your FAQs. And that could be, if I'm purchasing something from you, what's your refund policy? What's your cancellation policy? And then what you'd want to do is provide that information by way of a descriptive answer, and then also link through to perhaps one of your policies, which would be the more detailed terms and conditions that you have that relate to that particular inquiry. But beyond that, we can add in all sorts of extras. So we can add in events calendars, you can add in sort of personalizations, put in site maps, add individual events and booking links, etc. And one of the biggest things that we can do is obviously add in an e-commerce section. So if we are selling directly from our site, that would potentially be your e-commerce section of your site. Usually your e-commerce section would be set up and run as a kind of a microsite almost. So you'd look at your main pages, perhaps if you're in WordPress admin looking to do some of that content management update, all of the products and items that you sell would be grouped together in a sort of a section of the website. And I would say if you are looking at an e-commerce provision on your website, that is something that would be very useful to work with a web designer. It can be quite tricky to set up yourself if you are coming from a point of lower knowledge about websites and the technical side of websites. There are some great plugins that you can get. So a sort of you buy an e-commerce solution and they give you the download and you pop it into your website. But as I say, making sure that on your e-commerce sites that you've got all the legals set up, that you've got all of the descriptions are up to date, that your pricing is correct, that you've got your refunds, that you understand how it's going to link to your stock. You've got to link it to postage and packing rates if that gets added on at checkout. You've got to have a secure checkout because you'll be holding people's confidential data around credit card, debit card details, etc. So obviously that has an additional amount of security and cyber security, as we all know. I'm sure that perhaps we've all had concerns ourselves about cyber security, perhaps if we've been buying online. So we need to think about making sure that we give all of that trust and confidence to our customers if we're going to go down an e-commerce route. E-commerce is kind of a workshop in its own right, so that's quite detailed. But if that was something that people were interested in, I'm sure that if you feedback, it may be something that we can look at iSE or Living Well Consortium supporting you with in terms of further information. Okay. One of the other things about websites is that we absorb the information in a very, very, very different way. So first of all, we want to feel as though the website is talking to us. So we talked about that, you know, sort of knowing your audience, right for your audience rather than for yourself. So an example of that would be instead of saying order our products now, which kind of might be a bit, oh, hang on, that makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable. Just even the messaging to say you can order your products on our website, and this is sort of where you would go to make that happen. So be a little bit gentle, but know your audience, because one of the things that is really important is that we reflect their language. So if your language is for commissioners, the same as we were talking about in the social media workshop last week, then you want to have a responsive language and tone for commissioners. If it is all for young people, then we want to use a language and tone that can resonate with young people on our website. So, for example, if I were writing copy and content for an adventure activity company, it would be much more fun, much more light-hearted, much more engaging, if you like, casual, but focusing on the fun elements and the enjoyment and the experience and making the memories, rather than if you are working with substance recovery, for example, and alcohol recovery, you need more sensitive language there, and you need to focus on your audience and what their needs are going to be, to reflect that in your language. So knowing your audience is really, really important, and writing for your audience rather than for yourself in the first instance. On a web page, if you think of an inverted triangle, so the wide base, the wide element of the triangle at the top coming down to a funnel, a smaller point of information at the bottom, that's really the kind of the visual element that we should be looking at in terms of page information. So all the really important eye-catching information, you know, is this what you are looking for? You know, this page is talking to you about we're opening up a new enterprise location where you will be able to access our services. That's the really important information. Then it's kind of what services will be accessed there. Then it might be a little bit about the environment. Then it might kind of go down into what when you'll be open and who will be running that space. So it filters down literally as you go read down the page. Don't start with, you know, if you want information about your enterprise centre, contact Sally. Why am I contacting Sally? Don't know yet. I don't know what the enterprise centre offers. Keeping sentences very short and simple. There is probably a sort of a golden rule that we read much shorter line lengths, much shorter sentences, and much shorter paragraphs when we are looking at websites. So if you are the person in the organisation that's maybe looking at which sections, which pages of our website need to be rewritten, much shorter sentences than perhaps you would use if you were writing a brochure or if you were writing an email, for example. So kind of no more than 30 words in a sentence. Use paragraphs, break it up. I've put down there a little bit further down, you know, using things like bullet points and like lists, so that it doesn't look like a mass of information, a mass of words that people find difficult to break up and actually find what they're looking for within that information. If you have the availability, then highlighting some words in bold, for example, using sort of headers, subheaders to categorize your information is really good. One of the things that we can do on websites, and that we do within our own businesses, is that we use a lot of jargon, and we do it inadvertently. We use acronyms. So if I just kind of started a few slides back and going, right, if you are managing your CMS, and people will be going, CMS, what's CMS? So that's the jargon, is don't use jargon, acronyms, language that people won't understand. So obviously we try and work with accessible, simple sentence construction and language, so that it makes it really accessible to all. One of the things that we can do that is liked by the algorithms that work on websites is mixing up adjectives. So if I talk on one paragraph about a photo shoot, for example, in the next paragraph I might talk about the photography session, because that way you can actually use links for both of those. So if I was a photographer, I would want to be able to use links against those different phrases on my website. And we're going to talk a little bit about links and meta tags and keywords in a little bit. So do kind of be a little bit descriptive in the way that you use your adjectives. We've talked about bullet points and lists, so sort of visually breaking up the information rather than it being a complete deluge of just big paragraphs and big chunks of words. But it's also really important that we do use multimedia, so images, so making sure that images are attractive, that they are perhaps dynamic, that they are relevant, obviously, to what you're describing. For example, I've tried to use an interesting image, but one that is still resonant of the fact that we're talking about writing for websites, and writing for the website is different to how we would write for printed material, and how people read. is very different. So using interesting images, if you can, using dynamic images, people are always good to using your images. One thing I would personally steer away from, if you can, or consider carefully before you do, is using sort of stock images. So as a case in point, this particular image that's on this page, for example, is just downloaded through stock images that you can access through PowerPoint creation. So I don't have any concerns about the copyright of that image being used on here, because it's part of the stock images provided by Microsoft when you buy your license that includes PowerPoint as an application. If you are buying stock images or using stock images, you can't just go onto a Google search for an image and download it and then put it on your website, because you may well find that somebody else owns that image. So that's really where you get into copyright law. So be very careful about using stock images and also music tracks, etc. So if you go, oh, my favourite song is Chasing Cars by Snow Patrol, you can't just put that on your website because you like the soundtrack, because Snow Patrol would expect a royalty and you need to have a license for that. So please, please, please do be very careful about copyright, etc. If you go to Getty Images, which are a sort of a photo library, there is a difference between royalty-free and copyrighted. Royalty-free doesn't necessarily mean it is free for you to use. There may well still be a charge, and most likely would still be a charge if you are going to a main photo library provider. So please be very, very careful. However, don't let that hold you back from using appropriate images, using videos. So you might have your own videos that you've produced internally. They could just be little what are called vox pops, so sort of literally filmed on your phone with a member of staff to go, hi, this is our new staff team member, and they, you know, Sally might wave and Sally might describe a little bit about her role, that she's coming into the business and how excited she is to be working with Living Well Consortium, for example, and what you'll be doing and how she looks forward to engaging with you as a customer. That could be a little 10-second video filmed on a phone and then included on your news release about your new staff member. That's great. And obviously, you know, products and services, etc. Downloads are really good on your website. Downloads are liked because they make your site more interactive. I'm going to talk about that in a little moment. And then using links as well. So we'll talk about hyperlinks and backlinks, etc. A little bit further down. But make sure you have that clear call to action, both on your homepage, but on other pages that you include in terms of your writing. And the call to action may be something as simple as new staff member Sally joining Living Well Consortium. Here is my contact details. If you want to get in touch with me, please email me or use this particular phone number. That might be the simple call to action, okay? So, making your site sticky. This is a phrase that is used really about how long we stay on sites, how engaging sites are for us. So the general idea would be that if you have a website, you want people to stay on your website rather than sort of go, oh, I don't like this website, I can't find the information I want, so I'm out of here, I'm on to the next person on the Google search list. So two slight things. If I go onto a website and it's not the right website, it's not what I'm actually looking for, as opposed to I'm having difficulty accessing the information on the site itself. If I'm not looking for it, then that's fine. You know, sort of, you know, I'm looking for a book about becoming a mental health first aider. You don't have that on your site. I've gone to the wrong site. That's fine. Off I go. But if I'm on the right site, what we want is people to stay on the site and gain the information that that they need from us. So things like the navigation is really important. So often we will click on one button on the navigation and there will be that drop-down list, which helps us within 1, 2, and certainly 3 clicks, get to the right point of information that we want to go to, so that we can then read and digest more. So your navigation, the pathway, the route map through your site is really, really important. So please do have a little think about that, and we talk a bit about customer experience, customer journey a little bit further down the presentation. Things like rollovers, they can work really, really well. So a rollover might be, if I use the example of a staff team page. So here are all our members of staff, and there's a lovely picture of Sally, and Sally is our marketing officer, for example. So there might be a picture of me looking very proud at my desk, head and shoulder shot. But a rollover might be, for example, an image of me and what I might be doing if I enjoy walking in the countryside. There might be a friendly picture of me, so people, you want to break down those barriers. You don't always want a sort of a glass wall. But all of these sorts of things on staff team pages have to be with permission from your member of staff. They have to be comfortable and okay that their photograph is being used. You know, and especially if there is this sort of, you know, this is the business side of Sally and this is the slightly more personal side of Sally, that they're comfortable with how that's being conveyed. So please do make sure that if you are putting any photographs up on your site, rollovers or not, that you are getting that permission. But rollovers can be quite fun because people use the mouse to hover over the picture, and the second picture comes up and they go backwards and forwards over it. Downloads are really important. So downloads are liked by the search engine algorithms because they add depth and richness to your site. So downloads could be things like your policies would be perhaps a download, and it might be important to, if I was a commissioner, to be able to look and download your GDPR, your privacy policy around the website, for example. It could be that a download would be, here's our hints and tips sheet for self-care during challenging times such as COVID and having to work at home or isolating. You know, download our quick sheet and then by all means have that as a sort of free giveaway from us to you. So downloads can be important. Sign-ups we've talked about. I would say that every site should have a search function. So normally this would be located top right because that's just sort of historically where we're quite comfortable with search functions. So obviously we read left to right, we read top to bottom. And most search functions for a website, you will find them, you'll find the logo on the top left, and you'll find the search function on the top right. So have a search function. So if I go onto your site and I'm looking for yoga, that I can type in yoga and that will come up with all the pages that are relevant to that, and then I can quickly and easily find the page that I might be interested in. More and more websites are using live chat. So that would be a plugin that you can purchase or through your design template or with your designer if you're using an agency. And that live chat allows that very dynamic engagement. So perhaps we've all had that if we've been on a technical site. I don't think HMOS, I'm just thinking which sites have one. I think British Telecom, for example, have a live chat function that can pop up. So it means if you can't find something or whatever, instead of getting perhaps annoyed, frustrated that you can't find the information you want, your live chat will pop up and then you can ask somebody and they get that sorted out for you. That's really, really good. Links on your site. So link out of your site to other sites appropriately and with relevance. And make sure that if you do have those links, that they, if somebody has that as a pop out, so it allows them to close that but still be on your site, still come back to your site, that's really important. But things like links within copy, so if I were writing a page that was explaining how iSE are working with Living Well Consortia, I would be hyperlinking iSE in the copy. and I would be linking Living Well Consortia in the copy, and I would be linking to the programme of online workshops, so the link to the social media workshop last week, the link to this workshop today, etc. So links work really, really well. People like links, and also the search engines like links. One of the best things that you can do is also get people to link back to your site. So a reciprocal link, for example, between iSE and Living Well Consortia. So if you talk about the fact that, you know, we're working in partnership with, or we're working on behalf of, or we've had a grant or a programme sort of funding given to us by Heart of England Community Health or big national big lottery, that you link to their site. Difficult, obviously, if it's big lottery. Are they going to link back to your own site? That might be a bit tricky, but you can work on that principle of asking people to link back to you. That works really, really well. So it sort of adds another tick in the website credit box, if you like. And pop-outs. So this is, as I say, if you click on a link, does it open up in a new window? Or does it take you to another website and you can't get back to where you want it to be? So pop-outs work really, really well. And you can also use those about little bits of information. So there might be a very short piece of information on a page about a programme, and it might be that we can click on that, and a more detailed description comes up about what we mean by health and well-being, and being able to offer better work-life balance, for example. So there's your short descriptor sentence on your page, but actually the pop-out sort of may go to a more in-depth opinion, view, statistics, evidence, or further information kind of thing. So using things like pop-outs gives us better richness within our websites. Keep your websites up to date. I love this slide when I was putting this presentation together. And if I were, slight diversification, but if I had a team page, I love these kind of images. They're bright, they're colourful, they're interesting, people are smiling, they're dynamic because they're moving. So to me, if you've got a team page, I think these kind of images could work really, really, really well on team pages. However, if the lady in the bottom left with the blue jumper leaves our team, we need to take her off our team page, because that's not relevant and appropriate that she's on there. And also, as a leaving member of the staff team, she may well not be happy that she's still being referred to on your own team page. So do that bit of housekeeping around new people joining and people leaving. Things like opening hours, obviously with COVID, people working at home more businesses working online. We need to keep people up to date with opening hours and let them know sort of how they can access us and when they can access us, and if that changes. Things like new products and services. We're often reasonably good at putting new products and services on our page. We're often quite poor at taking old completed projects off. So it looks like we're perhaps still delivering those projects where in actual fact the funding has completed. So maybe that's a good time to look at how that project has completed, take it off from your current products and services funded programs that you're delivering, produce a case study, and then put that in the appropriate place on your website. And things like telephone and email, I frequently, and I'm sure we've all done it, we've gone to try and email somebody or phone somebody and it's not the correct information. So there are some really, really simple things about making sure that we keep our sites up to date with some of the basic information that we have. So I think what is really important to me there is that all of the time we are again going back to our audience, we're going back to our customer, and we're making sure that we are making life as easy for them as possible, as engaging for them as possible, and simple to actually access the information that they might want from us. So if we go back to put ourselves in our customers' shoes and take that time to sort of test and check that we've got the right information there, and that it is up to date, and that it represents our organisation well, particularly if your organisation lately has pivoted and you've got perhaps new objectives, you've diversified, or you've evolved and you've changed how you're delivering services. So it is really about customer experience first, and this test it. Never be afraid of testing your website. So whether you're starting new, whether you are refurbishing your website, or whether it's an older website, ask people, you know, what do they think about it? What do they enjoy? How does it feel for them? Could they get to where they need to go on your website? Sometimes you may hear people talk about having a customer avatar. So avatars are the sort of, you know, a representative created individual. So what that does for us is be able to say, actually, when we started doing this 5 years ago, 10 years ago as an enterprise, and we built that first website, our customers were maybe age 40 plus. Actually, if we stop and look at it now, so if we use mental health services as an example, actually our customer avatar has now changed. We might still have that age 40 plus living in a certain geographic location with a certain level of income, a certain level of educational background, etc. The amount that they might be spending with us, the types of services they might be wanting to engage. However, we've actually got a new customer avatar that sits alongside them, and that might be a younger person. It might be from a different geographic location. It might have different educational backgrounds, etc. So just taking that moment to think about who our customers really are, and making a profile of your target customers, people that you really want to be working with, or who your customers actually are if they are changing, and making sure that we again do that reflection piece, that our websites are engaging that type of customer avatar. Your customer journey is really, in terms of your website, is being able to understand where they go on your website and how long they stay in different places. And this is where if you have either your own website that you set up through GoDaddy or WordPress, or you work with a design agency, you want to be able to get your analytics information. Your analytics information will show you where are people coming from, which page are they going to. They're going to a particular page. So if we've just put out a page about Living Well Consortia delivering a fantastic set of online workshops to support health and wellbeing enterprises, here is the link, and maybe we put that out in our social media that we talked about last week, then you would expect to see a rise in your website analytics of people landing on that page. And that again is another success factor that you might want to link into your a social media strategy around a particular project or campaign. You know, how many people engage with us through our website and then book on. Equally, if you're running a social media campaign, does it mean that you are driving people to that point? You know, are they taking up that call to action and going to that point on the website that you are promoting and encouraging people to look at? So having your analytics set up and then actually taking the time to look at them and use them is quite important in terms of being able to understand that customer journey. So the journey is exactly that. It's the roadmap. It can show you where they go on the site. So where do they come into first? Where do they then click on to go? How long do they stay on the site? And at what point do they exit? Do they exit when they've completed a contact form? If they've completed your sign up to your email mailing list, and that may be another one of your marketing objectives, is increasing your GDPR approved mailing list numbers from 500 to 1,000. So that's how you can integrate that customer journey from your website into other areas of your marketing strategy. The customer experience is very much how they feel and kind of what they do. So if they are feeling good and engaged, and we've made the site sticky but relevant to them, maybe if we have that ability, we've personalized it for them, because everybody is different. So personalization is a very subjective thing. as website design is a very subjective thing. But it's really important that we try and understand how our customers feel when they go onto our site, and whether it gives them that information, because we want them to go away happy and engaged. We don't want them to leave the site in a bit of a huff and frustrated because they couldn't get that information. So you have customers, you have friends, maybe even working with stakeholders, referral partners. Ask them to go through your site and have a look at your site and find a certain piece of information. How easy was it to find? Was the language engaging? Were the information everything that you needed so that you could actually book onto this session today, etc.? Or was it sort of somewhat lacking, in which case you can then go back, you can adapt that page. If you've got your content management controls, you can then think about, what additional information should we have put together to make it easier for people to understand what the workshop today would be delivering for them. So you can go back, you can test it, you can update it. And that's a continual cycle, as I'm sure many other aspects of sort of business management, enterprise management are for you. I hope that makes some sense. I'm going to stop the screen sharing now, because we're going to go back into another breakout session. So what I'd like you to do within the next little breakout session, so another sort of 5 minutes, have a little bit more in-depth look at your homepage and think about what should be on your homepage, and also look at your navigation. So looking at how well your navigation works, whether you think there's maybe something lacking. So it's just a general discussion within your small groups, and exchange that information if it's possible. Perhaps look at each other's homepages and navigation so that you can offer that little bit of check and test perspective. Is that okay with everybody? We're all good on that one. So I'm just going to pop you into breakout rooms again. And give you 5 minutes, and I'll do a sort of a call out when we've got a minute to go. Okay.
Yeah.
Hello. Well, Tiana, you're smiling. You've always got a beautiful smile. So hopefully, was that an interesting sort of conversation between the two of you?
Yeah, we got
Yeah.
the differences, and I've got a couple of good ideas of things to add on our own website. So
Perfect.
quite a good conversation.
Excellent. And Phil, where are you at with all of this then? You said that you're kind of responsible for your website and your enterprise kind of thing.
Yeah, so basically I've been given the task of wanting to redesign a whole new website on our one as well. So we tried it this year, we failed because it was just way too busy, because with COVID stuff.
Yeah.
Just found it was too much to add on to myself. So I just thought we'll just do it next year. I'll have more time next year to look into it. So I find it's quite useful.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, I'm pleased about that. And as I say, there is a page right at the very end with some useful, I hope, useful web links, general sort of links and that kind of thing, as well as the ones sort of through the slides, if you need those. So, but by all means, my contact details are there. So you can always get in contact through Living Well Consortia, iSE, and I'm sure that there'll be, some advice and guidance if there's anything. But I think that, as Tiana and Phil have just done, exchanging that information, because it's busman's holiday, isn't it? It's when we look at things ourselves, we can't see the wood for the trees often. We think it's a clear piece of information, or we think people know something, and we've completely forgotten to tell them a really essential, basic piece of key information that would be a buying sort of decision for somebody, perhaps. So I think always having somebody else that you can, whether it's within the team or externally or a customer. Customers feel very valued if they're asked their opinion, their perspective, so even consider inviting a number of sort of customers in to do a small focus group about, how does our website appear? What else would you like to see on there? Do you want an events calendar? Do you, et cetera, et cetera? So, that could be something that would work really well. Most of us like to be asked our opinion. It makes us feel good. And you can get some really valuable feedback there about understanding your audience and feeding back to your customers.
How would you go about doing getting that opinion?
What, the getting a focus group, or?
Sorry, would it be a focus group? Because I thought perhaps if it was something that you say did a poll on social media, or even if it was something that was included in your newsletter to kind of announce a new website and that you're making changes. Is there any kind of opinion that you have on it?
I think that is a great idea, Manu. Absolutely brilliant. Use your letter because that's really engaging your customers there. But certainly, if you can do that with your customers, I would say, don't have an expectation that 1,000 people are going to come back with a survey or their view or their opinion. But I think if you get half a dozen, that can be really, really valuable, because we do miss the obvious sometimes when it's our own businesses. And I think the other thing is, if you have a business mentor, or you work with a business coach, or you have a friend that works in business whose opinion you trust, just ask them, could you spend 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes kind of thing, sort of having a look through our site or and just kind of let me know, is there anything that really jumps out, either really good, that is missing, something that's really bad, link that doesn't work, or something like that. So we've probably got a few different avenues that we could go down there. If you have a board within your enterprise, it could be actually engaging your board and seeing if that that could be added onto a board agenda. I know your board, if they are active within your business, but they're often external to your business in that they don't work in the business, they're helping advise, guide on the business. So that can also be a way of working with your board, perhaps. So a few different options there, but I thought some of your ideas there, Amani, were absolutely great. If you can use your newsletter, get a little focus group together. Maybe you could, if they do work with your customers and they do kind of come into a focus group, which you could do online or face to face if it's perhaps next year, it may be that you're able to offer them a complimentary discount or something on a place on a program, or you might be able to send them sort of, I don't know, a free download of something or whatever. So that reciprocation, again, they've given some of their time, so valuing their time in that way. Has anybody else got anything from their discussions that they've just had? No? Okay, so we're just going to move back to screen sharing and whiz through the last section of the presentation, if that's okay. So this one is the techie stuff. So in some ways, I'm not going to spend a huge amount of time on this bit, because a lot of the techie stuff is really where I would suggest that you might want to work with a web designer, somebody that can actually make sure that the technical functionality behind your site is working, is optimized, is doing what you need it to do. So this is almost all the unseen stuff. And in that sense, I copyright websites and I, update content, and I can look at the visual and I can look at the functionality, but I'm not the techie person that kind of makes it all happen. I kind of work with webmasters to go, please, can we make sure that it's optimized for mobile devices, top of the list. And I would say that this optimization is so important in this day and age. We all see it, when people are out and about, walking the streets, when they used to commute to work in the office, that they're on their mobile phone. So having a website that works on a static computer is great. But it really does now, in this day and age, it needs to work on a number of devices, from iPads to different mobile phones. And obviously, you've got different platforms of mobile phones, so the Android versus the iPhones, etc. So it is really, really important that your website is optimized for all devices, and also different browsers, which I should have included that. So just make a note that if you are working with your web agency, make sure that they've checked it in different browsers. So is it fine on Google browser, but it also works on Firefox or what's the other one, Godzilla, and a few others. So the last thing you want is to find that it doesn't function well on a different device. So you want it on a mobile, for example, to automatically resize and reframe for the screen size on that mobile. And that's what you should be able to get. Really, really important. Probably now we access websites, probably 80% almost on our phones now. It's getting to a really, really high percentage. So making sure that your site is optimized for these search engines, and the reason that there is a spider, I've tried to not make it a scary spider, in the top right hand side, is that they are called search engine spiders, and it's the artificial intelligence, the algorithm that crawls across every internet page, billions and billions and billions of pages, and it looks at them as it crawls across them to see if they are right, relevant, whether they contravene any sort of legal precedents which are out there. So we all hear that when something bad happens, that people say, you know, the website should be taken down, they should be removed. Search engine spiders will look for inappropriate language, inappropriate images, etc. But the precedence of the World Wide Web is that it's free and open access. Principally, that was the precedent that Tim Berners-Lee set when he sort of established the World Wide Web. So there is a balance there. But what the search engine spiders will do is that they will read particularly your homepage. So that's again why this is really important. They look at the first layer, first horizontal layer of your website, and they will scan all of that content. And if you have meta tagged your keywords, which I will come back to and explain more, but you've maybe if there's a high search term of money, that word, and you've meta tagged on your search engine keywords money, but actually money doesn't feature in any of the copy, any of the content that you have on your homepage or on that first tier of your pages, then you get pushed down the search engine listing, the Google listing. So what it likes is synergy between what you say your website is about and what is actually on your website. Okay. So being really, really mindful that things like your keywords, so your keywords would be health and well-being, mental health, Living Well Consortium, Birmingham, all of those kind of words that usually if I'm working on a WordPress editor page, is there'll be a box below what I want to appear on my web page. There's a box below that where I'm editing, where it will say search terms or search words or keywords. And that's where you want to put in the name of your organization, the key adjectives and descriptors around the page content that you've got, the geographic location, the name of your organization, the name of the program, the name of the funder, all of those things. Because if you think, oh, I'm going to go on Google today and I'm going to search Living Well Consortium or Mental Health Services Birmingham, you want Living Well Consortium as an example to come up top of that page. So it needs to see that synergy between what you say your website is about and what is actually on your website. So meta tag those keywords, put them in that search box. The other thing that you can do is obviously make sure that all your links are working. So if you are linking within your copy to Living Well Consortia, to iSE, to Sally Ryan, that you hyperlink that word within the copy on that page. So hyperlinking, I'm guessing that most people are familiar with how to do that. You highlight the word, let's say it's Sally Ryan, you highlight the word, and then there's a little kind of link symbol on the page in the tools box, and you click on that link, and then you'll find my webpage or me, copy that and link it back in, and then apply it. So making sure those links actually work. If you are using an image, a logo, for example, so let's say you use the Living Well Consortia logo, again, you can link that image to the Living Well Consortia page, so that if somebody clicks or hovers over that image, you'll go from an arrow cursor to a pointy finger cursor, and then they can click with their pointy finger cursor on the image, and it will go to where you've linked that image to. So it will go back to Living Well Consortia. What you would then really like, for example, is Living Well Consortia to link back to your page somewhere appropriate on their site, and that's where it becomes reciprocal, and that makes it more powerful and more enjoyed by the search engine spiders. Things like page titles need to be correct. So this is the page titling literally that comes up at the top of the page when you go onto a web page. Usually in things like WordPress on content management, they are auto-generated. So you shouldn't have too much of a problem there. But it's also making sure that, you know, every so often go through your website and make sure that pages are correct, that you can link from one page to another page, that there is nothing broken, there's no errors coming up, because search engine spiders don't like broken links and errors on pages at all. Writing rich snippets. So the snippets, when we go on to Google search, they are the couple of descriptor lines that you get in your search engine listing that sort of describe the organization. So again, on, for example, your WordPress edit page, it will give you a little box which you can free type into that says snippet. And that's the piece of information that will come up when somebody does a Google search. That is really important, again, that you use that function because that's liked, and it's sort of, again, the search engine spiders sort of look at that, and they look at the resonance between the language and what the page is. When you use general images on your pages, you can, when you're uploading the image on WordPress, you can do what's called alt text, alternative text. So, for example, you can put an image of me on a team page, and the alt text, which is when you're uploading the image to go onto the page, when you're in editor of that page, the alt text would be perhaps Sally Ryan, marketing officer, let's say Living Well Consortium. So that alt text is relevant to that image. What you wouldn't do is put a picture of me up and then put the alt text of money, 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 just because money is a very high registering search term. Things like resource hubs with all your sort of downloads, reports, free guides, etc., are also liked by search engines. So that's another way that you can kind of add another tick into the search engine optimization box. So there are many things that you can do, a lot of them quite technical, a few of them content. But if the other option that's open to you in terms of getting your search, getting your organisation up to the top of the search engine register is to do a pay-per-click campaign, which some of you may have heard of. That does get sort of shortened down to the acronym PCC, pay-per-click campaign. And that's where you'd go into something like Google AdWords. So again, if you go onto Google and you do a search term for mental health services Birmingham, at the top you'll see that there are some ads. It will say in greyed out writing, ad, Google ad or ad or sponsored ad. And that's where you are actually using your Google AdWords to actually feature in the top of the page rankings there. But that basically means that you set a budget, and then every time somebody clicks on that, you pay a certain amount, and it depends on the search terms that you use. So you need to be very mindful of your search terms, and you need to be very mindful of setting your budget. Obviously, if you suddenly had a really successful campaign, you could be paying a lot of money for it, but they're often sort of a few pence, a pound or something on each click that you get through from that ad to your site. It can be effective short term. It can be effective for an individual, a short campaign or for a project campaign kind of thing. But that again is something either you perhaps need to understand Google AdWords in a little bit more detail, or work with your web designer to set that up for you. They should be able to do that perfectly. And that should also then come down into your analytics if you get your analytics through on a regular basis around your website, who's coming in and whatever. If you do decide to go down the keyword route, so this is not specifically Google AdWords, this is just about understanding keywords to register with your site and to kind of think about which keywords you might want to be using, how powerful they are, how many times they're searched, how popular they are, etc. If you go to, there's a link at the bottom of this slide, and it's a keyword planner, but Google are the best people at explaining how their keywords work and also how their AdWords work. If you want to go down that route, as I say, it's more technical. It can boost your ranking, your positioning on your web page search in browsers, but it's a bit more of a technical detail kind of thing to go through, which would take a little bit more time than we have remaining today. But hopefully there's that link there, and it means that you can go and have a look at that in your own time if you feel that that's something that would be good for your organisation. The last thing I really want to mention on the technical stuff is that there are some key legal requirements to websites. So this kind of captures very, very briefly your basics in terms of legal requirements. So you must include your identity on your website. So your name, your address, your company registration number, your VAT registration number, charity number if you're a charity, etc. So that basic identity information that explains who you are. So I wouldn't just set up a web page going, I'm Sally Ryan, or I'm Soapbox Marketing. I would need to say Soapbox Marketing, I'm Sally Ryan, this is, my registered address, etc., etc., company's house registration, and so on. So check with that. I would make sure that your website has a copyright sort of C on it, so that basically what you are saying is that everything that you include on your website is copyrighted to you. Doesn't mean you have to necessarily go down a formal copyright route in terms of intellectual property, although I would say there is a fantastic resource on government's website. If you type in intellectual property, if any of you have goods or services that you really think should qualify for any design copyright, and I'm trying to think of the other word and I can't, but go and have a look on the intellectual property section of the government website. It is brilliant, and you can go through a check and test process yourself there as well, around products or services. Consumer protection, really, really important, especially if you have an e-commerce site. So how are your customers protected? That's things like how would they get refunds? What about cancellation policies? That kind of thing. GDPR, I think we've all were deluged with this about 2 years ago when data protection changed, but it is making sure that you explain to people how their information is captured, how it is stored, how it is used, how they can check their information that you hold about them, and how they can actually ask for it to be removed. So please, please, please make sure that you are absolutely on the right side of GDPR. And then it could be that lists of policies are really important on your site. So that isn't necessarily all of the policies that you have within your whole enterprise, but it could be your terms and conditions of trading, if that is relevant to you, which kind of links into your consumer protection. It could be anti-slavery, which is a big one at the moment. It could be about your diversity and inclusion policy, which could relate to obviously some of the news that we've had around Black Lives Matter, etc. So think about the policies which are required and would be necessary on your site. Security is, again, making sure your site is secure, so that if people are transacting on your site, that they have that sense of security, that you've got that certification. It's the security certification for your site. So ask your web designer about that and make sure it is CSS approved. And accessibility. This is perhaps key in terms of visual access, hearing impairment. So how do people actually able to look at your site if they have any of those impairments? So for some people, it will be really, really difficult, obviously, on a website, if they have some visual impairment or are blind, and that's where you will find some sites will have an audio navigation included on their site. So depending on where you sit around your customer groups and around your disability awareness, that may be something that's really important to you. So those are some key elements that you do need to consider in terms of your legal requirements. As with last week, we've kind of run out of a little bit of time, and I would like to just kind of open it up for open sessions. So my third breakout was going to be just sort of asking you within your breakout groups to look at 3 search engine keywords that you would want to make sure are tagged on your site that reflect what you do, and to do that exploration around, can you get where you need to be in 3 clicks? But I'm kind of going to leave that to homework, I think, if that's okay with everybody. And I'm just going to go to a sort of 5 minutes or so of open discussion and Q&A sort of. If anybody would like to come in, please do come off mute. And any feedback, anything that's kind of come up that has concerned you, anything that's come up that you've thought, oh, actually, that's my one golden nugget that I'm going to take away and have a look at. Yes, Ange. Hello.
Hiya. I'm coming to this as a I volunteered to keep the social media stuff updated and that kind of thing.
Okay.
But actually looking at the website this morning as well, realising that the whole thing as a package, it all needs sort of revamping completely.
Okay.
How do I persuade the board and the trustees that they actually probably need to invest a fair chunk of money in doing this in order to lift our profile?
Okay, I think you're quite right. It is money, but it is also time.
Yeah.
So obviously, you know, staff time, sometimes it can be overlooked that staff time has a cost to it as well.
Yeah.
What I would do is, if you have the ability within your role, within your enterprise or charity, is spend some time and do your own little review of the website and kind of go, well, these are the pages that we've got. Are they right? Do they need improvement? Are they completely wrong? They don't reflect what we do anymore. Are we missing any key information? So perhaps you don't have a staff page on your current website. You feel that would be a real benefit to you. So I would almost do just, it doesn't have to be long, it doesn't have to be complicated. I would literally do this is what we've got, and maybe a column that then sort of says, this is what's good about what we've got, and this is what isn't so good. Or in actual fact, what's maybe missing, kind of thing. And I would present it as a business case in the first instance. If they, depending on then whether you have content management access to your site, as we've been talking about WordPress, then it perhaps needs the senior leadership team to say, right, we will invest staff time, and please can you, perhaps Ange, be the person. Yes, we recognise what you've given us. If we can invest the time, it would improve how we're presenting our organisation to the wider world, particularly to those commissioners, etc., as well as your customers. Makes us an employer of choice, a volunteer organisation of choice. So we'll invest that time, set up a timetable, you know, and you manage it as any other internal project. If they felt it was necessary to completely restart, then that's where you may need to look at how you talk to organisations that may be able to support you to do that web design piece. But making sure that you as an organisation do have control of your own website. I personally, I can't remember the last time I recommended to any of my clients, go and find a webmaster that will do it all for you, create a website and not give you any control back. I would absolutely make that part of the briefing, that you want that content management control, and you want it, you know, simple, easy, etc. There might be then, you know, odd bits of time where you need to go back and commission individual, more technical pieces of work. Getting it set up, you know, even if it is those 5 pages, get those 5 pages set up really, really well, both visually and with the narrative and the images, but also technically. And hopefully, I hope that through the conversation, that's fine, Phil. No problem, thank you.
Bye, Phil.
Yeah, but through the conversation today and also access to the slide pack and the resources, that you'll feel perhaps a little confident to be able to make that just a really simple evaluation, and then brief it out if you do go externally with some degree of confidence to know what you're asking somebody else to do. Is that okay?
That's great, thank you. Yes.
No problem. Anybody else? Any burning questions from today? Yes, Amani.
I just wanted to ask, say if you, because we now, we utilised a web design company, and we now have access to the site. How would you keep it safe? Say if I were to make changes, and because we navigate on a Shopify platform, and I'm not that well acquainted with it. I have been doing updates on it and things, and changing language and the copy and images, and I can do that. But if there were to be a major change that I make and it kind of, I don't know, there's a lot of technical consequences. How would I make sure that I keep my website?
It should be one. When I work, you can do a web page and then you can preview it. So before you publish it, before you do anything else, you can preview it, and you can be happy with the preview before you then publish it. What I would often do is, if I've got a web page that I think is no longer needed, maybe it's a project page and the project funding is concluded, you don't have to delete that page. You can usually put it back into draft. So it will go from published to draft and draft to published kind of thing. So I would put it back into draft rather than deleting it. Yeah. So you can always just click it back onto published again if you need to. The other thing in terms of the whole site, so if you're doing structural changes, that can often be when you do need to perhaps work with your web designer if you've got an external agency. Wherever your website is stored, whoever is hosting it on their server, there's usually a 24-hour backup minimum. So they should be able to go, right, well, if you've made changes today and it's all gone horribly wrong and some bit of coding is corrupted or whatever, we can go back to yesterday's website, but they would need to draw that back down off the server and reinstall it for you. Okay.
The only issue there is that, say if we were to ask for, say, is it like a developer's access? So to then get all access to that website. So potentially if we take it to another web design company, in between that time, I guess, I don't know how to format the question. In between that time, we don't really have, say, the web design company looking over it. Would you recommend that we don't make those structural changes until we're with another web design company?
Yes, I would. I would do exactly that. I'd wait. The other thing is if your website is hosted by your design agency, and you don't have that much control over it, and you want to move to another design agency who will give you a hosting package, it's very much, it's a bit like changing utilities provider. So it's about communicating with both parties and getting agreement that they will support that transition for you. They have no reason to not do it. They can't hold your website hostage, but obviously how one goes about that conversation between the new developers, the old developers and yourselves is really important to keep that positive. They may charge you because obviously it does take their time to sort of admin and transfer it off to the site, etc. It may be that they will say to you, there'll be an additional charge if it's within a contract that you have. So a lot of web agencies will have perhaps a 12-month rolling contract. So if you want to break it early, a bit like if you break your mobile phone contract and you want to go from, I don't know, EE to Vodafone, they'll go, yes, of course you can do that, but because you're leaving at month 8 of 12 months or whatever, we're going to charge you a kind of an admin fee, a release fee, if you like. So understand what those fees may be, understand what the timeline will be, and then fundamentally, the two organisations should sort that out between them. So it's not as though you suddenly have to be technically really aware in terms of how web servers work and hosting works and this, that and the other. The website doesn't sort of come from your old developer to you for you to then give it to your new developer. It's something that they can do together. Again, it's a bit like switching your utilities, say between British Gas and Blue Energy or whatever.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yeah, that really helps.
They should be, they should be cooperative. I would be very surprised in terms of professional integrity if they don't. They might sort of want to understand why you're moving, and that's obviously entirely up to you how deep you go into that particular conversation. But they shouldn't hold it hostage. But you may incur some costs to release it simply because it will take some of their time.
Okay.
Is that all right?
Yeah, that's really helpful.
And then do all the new work with the new agency, because that hopefully ask your new agency, what are your ideas? Once you've got to know us a little bit, what are your ideas? What do you think we can do? Sort of have, hopefully today has allowed everybody to have a little bit more confidence about those kind of website conversations, perhaps.
Yeah, it's helped me definitely.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, any final question before we close today's sessions? We've run over a little bit. I'm mindful that you perhaps have other priorities as well. Getting lunch may be one of them, as well as other meetings. Okay, well, thank you very, very much for your time today. I hope it has been helpful and useful. I hope it's helped you sort of look at your websites in a slightly different way. There will be the slide pack coming out from Paul as we did last week. This video will go up onto the iSE YouTube channel. The social media one from last week is already there, so please do pop onto that as well. And then the final thing, just in terms of Living Well Consortia and very kindly supporting these online workshops. If you feel that some IT support would be really helpful to your organisation, there is an offer through Paul that there are, I think, 2 days of IT support for organisations to access as well. So if that is helpful to you, useful to you, so it's looking at your computers, how your computers network, does it integrate with your telephone, your emails, and all of that sort of IT stuff, then please do speak to Paul. And let him know that you'd like to have some more details about that. Okay. Have a wonderful day. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
Bye.
Thank you, Sally.
Thank you.
Bye.
you very much. Bye.
Bye.